Hey Madden fans, I myself am a huge Madden fan and have been for many years, but I still sense there's a lot of frustration that remains in the game, and the core of it being that a lot of the best, playmaking abilities just feel out of your control. If you're a great pass rusher, there should be more than just spamming the A button or the X button in hopes of executing a pass rush move. On deep balls, regardless of the player's awareness or ability to track the ball, they somehow know exactly where the ball is going to land, to the blade of grass. And when it comes to making that catch, it really doesn't feel like there's much of a sequence beyond a random number generator that dictates based off the player attributes. Is it a catch? Is it a batted ball? Or is it an interception? So with that, I've come up with some ideas of how to implement some new mini games within the larger game itself, so it becomes a cerebral little experience between you and between your opponent. On that same thought, opponents that spam the same offensive plays over and over and over again, creating a system that really penalizes them for not using the whole playbook and for spamming the same goofy or money play over and over and over again. At the end of the day, on defense, you only have one player you can control, so you depend on the 10 AIs around you to go ahead and step up and acknowledge, hey, you've run that corny stuff all game. We're going to go ahead and improve our play and make that stop. So in any case, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I really do appreciate you watching. Thank you. So of the 4 recommendations I have in this video, the first is something that could be immediate. Something that developers could go ahead and code and send out in a patch tomorrow and immediately improve how fun and really how competitive games are online. And what it's aiming to do is to penalize the players that spam the exact same plays or money plays all throughout the game. Because by the time they've run it 20, 30, 40 different times, your defense is still sitting there like, oh my God, what a play. What a play. That's all he's ran. How are you surprised, or how are you somehow taken off guard by him running it again? I can only control one player on the field, so I'm depending on the other players and the AI to step up and help out when they're doing the exact same moves and plays over and over again. So there needs to be an interface that shows, hey, you on offense, you've run this play 2 times in the same drive or in the same quarter. We're going to penalize you. Your offensive stats for your players are going to drop, and the defensive stats are going to boost. They know what's coming. They will react quicker in real life if you keep running the same play. If you continue, you do it 3 times in the same possession or the same quarter, even a higher nerf against your own players and a bigger buff for the defense so that you stop forcing that same silly play 60 times in a game. And this doesn't even just help out how fun the game is for you, but for streamers. It's not fun watching a game of 2 players that run the same offensive plays all game. It's not fun. There's no surprises. There's no eclecticity. It is literally just watching the same cut and paste formula and seeing who gets a lucky roll of the dice each time. Force people to change it up and make it more realistic that if you run the same 20 plays, soon enough, the defense in real life will go, hey, I know exactly what's coming and we're going to shut it down. Do that by boosting the defensive stats and nerfing the absolute hell out of the offensive stats for players that don't make use of the entire playbook. So my second recommendation for Madden in the future and how to vastly improve it would be to rebuild the pass rush system. Because right now, with players that make the game so fun and so exciting, like Khalil Mack, Chandler Jones, Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt, they are so underserved by Madden that you either spam the A button for a finesse move or spam the X button for a power move. There's just really not a lot of fun to play in the game. So here's a little mock-up I have of a little pass rush mini game within the larger game. Something that I think could be so much fun in create a player or career modes, or maybe even in competitive modes as well. So what we're going to have here is the launch off the ball. Let's see, Calais Campbell. So you were a little slow to hit the right trigger to go ahead and start the pass rush. The ball's already in the air, his hands down on the ground. So maybe he's not as given as much of an advantage. But next, once he makes contact with the lineman, this is when the mini game begins. The left stick, he's going to point to the right to try and make this move towards Matt Ryan. The right trigger button is where you activate the pass rush move, but you can't activate it until you either have this area, which represents the power move rating, or the finesse area, representing the finesse move rating, capture the lineman's red circle. So as the play develops, he's going to work away from your larger bar, so he's going to be swinging the right stick this way. Meanwhile, Calais Campbell is going to be moving that right stick towards that red circle. To players that have higher stamina or higher agility, this whole bar is going to move quicker. To a lineman that's not as skilled, maybe he has a slower red dot so it's easy to catch up and perform a realistic move. So as this continues, you can see Calais Campbell, his power move bar is getting closer and closer. He's setting up that pass rush, still moving the left stick right. And he finally captures it. This lights up to yellow. The right trigger button activates, and the power rush move wins, and he swims over and makes the play. Even if you're a left tackle and you want to have a career mode at left tackle, you'd be able to user control this red circle and start playing some games here. It'd be kind of fun as if after you started making this move to the right, maybe you swing it back left and catch him with a finesse move with that right trigger when this green box has captured that red circle. But make it so the players with huge power move ratings like an Aaron Donald, it would take up almost half of this bar and be very easy to catch an offensive lineman and beat him and make a power move happen. Whereas if you're just starting your career, having a very thin bar in this area, so it would take a ton of skill or a ton of time to make these plays happen. But in either scenario, making it more interactive than just slapping an A button or an X button and hoping for the best. Make it a mini game. Make it something fun and interactive, like you'd have a J.J. Watt or an Aaron Donald setting these pass rushes up. For those thinking, okay, what about tackling or batting the ball down? I would still say have the X button here to make a tackle attempt, maybe an arm tackle if you don't shed the block immediately. If you see the ball is going to be thrown over your head, Y button to still bat it down. But really the basis of this is how big is your power rush move bar and how big is your finesse move bar in trying to capture that lineman. A little mini game within the larger game itself. So akin to the new pass rush minigame, I think there needs to be a minigame when you're throwing bomb passes or deep passes down the field. I think it's very unrealistic for players that immediately when you throw the ball, that they know exactly where the ball is going down to a pinpoint. It's just not realistic. It makes it too easy for players in the league that maybe aren't so skilled at tracking the ball or actually coming down with the ball in real life, yet they're uber fast. So they're always over skilled in Madden because they, by some miracle, can track the ball like a Julio Jones or like a DeAndre Hopkins, even though they aren't skilled. Instead, there needs to be a mini game where the corner and where the receiver have the exact same function of moves. First steps is getting downfield. Just holding down right trigger and getting down the field. So we're going to see with Julio Jones, he knows it's the deep pass. He's going to finish his route, get to the top of it, and then left trigger to turn around and focus on the ball. Players with high awareness, like a Julio Jones, it's going to be a pretty consolidated, pretty small circle of where the ball could land the closer they get. If you're someone with a really low awareness rating, but super high speed, it could be a huge circle because all the speed in the world won't help if you can't track the ball well. What's the downside to this is that you have to slow down a bit to left trigger that. So if you're a cornerback that has terrific speed, but maybe not the best awareness, If you're going against Julio Jones, you're not even going to think about hitting the left trigger. You're just going to stay on the right trigger and stay on his hip until you see him go up for the ball. But if you're Julio, you left trigger, you see where the ball is going to be about landing, and you get back to sprinting. You let off the left trigger, you're back to getting underneath the ball. As you get closer, left trigger once again, trying to see where is that ball going to land. Okay, it's going to be at the top. We're going to let off that trigger again, get back to sprinting. There's a little halo of where the ball was last known to be about. And then right before the ball is caught, left trigger once more, get there and make that play. How would this compare to a slower receiver and someone that maybe is not as skilled? So I found a tight end on the Falcons, Selbert, who's likely not that skilled. He's running the same route, and as he gets to the top of it, he's going to experience a much bigger circle, putting him at a disadvantage. You know what? If you're a receiver with not the best awareness, you will not know to an exact blade of grass where it's going to land. It could really be anywhere until you hold the left trigger down long enough and key in on where it's going to land. So he knows it's a good distance away. He's got to get back on his feet. He's going to be sprinting. As he gets closer, back on the left trigger, still a very large box because his awareness isn't that great. Running back under it, lets off the left trigger. And the last moment, left trigger once again in hopes of making a play here. I think this once again makes it a more competitive 1-versus-1 in a competitive sense. When you're the cornerback, you have the exact same mechanic as the receiver does. So even if you're slower, you still have a better idea of where the ball's going to land. So while this player's tracking it, a good cornerback with good awareness is able to beeline right to the ball while you're tracking it. And if you're a bad corner with tons of speed, who cares if you have all the speed in the world? You won't use it if you can't track the ball very well. I think it'd be fun as well is if maybe you know you're not going to catch the ball, but you see the cornerback isn't trying to focus and he's just playing you. Maybe have a fake catch button where he fakes the catch. Maybe the X button or the interfere button lights up for the corner, and he attacks you for a pass interference because you faked him. You fooled him. That's more of a real receiver cornerback scenario. Also, I think that if you're playing corner and you just let the computer do its thing, I don't think you deserve an interception. I think that cornerback is more than able to bat the ball down, but you should be responsible for that interception or not. Maybe if the safety's over top and there's no player around for 5 or 10 yards, maybe give him a pick. But if he's anywhere in the vicinity, they're batting the ball down unless a user control player is trying to come up with that interception. But once again, just a more fun game mechanic where you're balancing out the attribute of pure speed with the ability to actually track the ball through awareness. But if you're someone like a Julio Jones, you get the benefit of both. Beelining to the ball, but having high awareness to know exactly where it's going to drop. So my fourth suggestion for an improvement to Madden is really the blitz pickup. Because as of today, this is what you're met with pre-snap when you're trying to get a feel for who's being picked up, what does the pocket look like. Right now, there could be a potential of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blitzers. And really all you're showing is, hey, there's going to be 6 protectors, and we really don't know who's not going to be picked up. Well, what I'd recommend is a button that kind of highlights who is the hot read. And if you're not comfortable with who the hot read is, cycle through different protections. So we would see something more akin to this, where, okay, we know that running back's picking up this slot cornerback. We have tackle on D end, guard on defensive tackle, guard on defensive tackle. But where are our trouble spots? The center. The center is going to be responsible for one of the 2 blitzers. And if they both blitz, he's hot. He's coming in free. Left slot cornerback. He's left unblocked. So if he comes, there's your hot read. You got to get it out to that slot receiver. Say you don't like this look. Cycle that pass protection button to a different. This one would shore up, make sure everyone's accounted for on the inside. but the slot cornerbacks are hot. Now you know exactly who wouldn't be picked up and who you could beat if they come on a blitz. But maybe you're not so comfortable with the running back being left one-on-one with a 300-pound defensive end or 250-pound defensive end. So you say, okay, I'm going to cycle it again, and the running back's going to be on one of these middle blockers or blitzers, and then we actually have a tackle on a defensive end, which is a more fair or advantageous matchup. But still, the screen would show you, hey, these are your hot blitzers. Those are the ones that your lineman and your running back will not account for unless one of their men drops off, and they'll be searching for someone to block. Maybe another addition, okay, maybe this slot corner just keeps on coming. Cycle through until your running back is responsible for him, but you're still mentally accounting for these 3 players rather than trying to read all 8 rushers to see which one will come unblocked. That is just very unrealistic to me. I've not played quarterback in my life. I have not played lineman, but I think that they would have a sense of who is coming in hot and who's coming in unblocked, and who will be picked up on a man-to-man like basis. Even if this, for whatever reason, isn't so realistic, at least it just gives you a clearer picture of, hey, my offense and my quarterback should have an idea of who's coming in hot and unblocked, and who I need to account for, and know who actually will be picked up in blitz protection. So you would just cycle through until you're comfortable with some free blitzers that you'll be keeping an eye on as you drop back to look to make a pass.